Well, hi everyone. Welcome to 2025 Tailored Collaboration Program Overview. My name is Kenan Ozekin. I am the Chief Research Officer for the Foundation. Before we start our webcast, there are a couple of housekeeping items I would like to review. You can submit your questions through the question box at any time, and we'll do Q&A at the end of presentations. Slides and recordings of the webcast will be available at our website after the webcast. You can download the slides now if you want to through the link to Tailored Collaboration page under the event resources on the bottom left of your screen. A certificate of completion will be automatically generated. If you have any question regarding that, you can contact Michelle. Her email address is listed on the slide. Please stay at the end of the webcast to fill out the survey. Those surveys are really critical for us in order to focus our webcast series. We have a full agenda for you today, so we have great speakers, and I will briefly go through who they are and before we start our presentations. I'll start with Randy. Randy Hayman is our Tailored Collaboration Research Committee Chair. He is a Commissioner and CEO of Philadelphia Water Department. Next on the line is Mary Smith. She is the Director of Research Services at the Foundation. Next, Bradley Smith. He is the Senior Scientist Water Resources Engineer with Loudoun Water. We have next Becky Lahr. Becky is a Drinking Water Quality Manager with the City of Ann Arbor. Next to Becky, Lut Raskin. Lut is a Verne Distinguished Professor of Environmental Engineering at the University of Michigan. Next, we have Levi Straka. He's an environmental research scientist with Metro Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. Levi will present with Jonathan Grabby. He is a managing engineer from Metro Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago as well. Then we do have Leon Downing. Leon is Associate Vice President with Black & Veatch. And finally, we'll conclude our presentation with Alice Furmore. She is the Director of Subscriber Services. Here's our agenda. As I mentioned at the beginning, we will have a full agenda for today. We'll start with Randy, and then we'll go through our TC program overview, and then we will present you three different models where we can play in the TC program submissions. At the end of all these presentations, we will have Q&A and discussions. Then Alice will close it up with subscriber services, assistance, how they can subscriber services can help both utilities and researchers to submit their proposals. Without further ado, I would like to turn to our chair of the program, Randy Hayman. Randy?
Good afternoon. It is my pleasure to welcome you to today's session on the Water Research Foundation's Tailored Collaboration Program. My name is Randy Hayman, and as noted, I'm the Commissioner and CEO of Philadelphia Water. And most importantly, for today's discussion, I am the chair of the Tailored Collaboration Review Committee. Whether you are a longtime partner or joining us for the first time, we are thrilled to have you here as we work together to advance research that directly benefits the water sector. Collaboration is the key to tackling the pressing challenges facing our industry. The Tailored Collaboration Program is a prime example of how utilities, researchers, and industry leaders can come together to drive innovation, solve local and regional water issues, and generate practical solutions that have broad-reaching impacts. Through this program, we have seen incredible projects take shape, projects that improve water quality, enhance treatment processes, and support sustainable water management. These efforts not only benefit the participating utilities, but also contribute to a growing body of knowledge that strengthens our entire industry. At the webcast today, we'll explore the opportunities this program offers, discuss best practices for successful collaboration, and hear from those who have successfully navigated the process. Our goal is to equip you with the insights and tools needed to put a successful proposal together. Thank you for being here and for your dedication to advancing water research. We look forward to a productive and inspiring discussion. Welcome.
Thank you, Randy. I will go. I don't see myself yet, but I will go ahead and tell you a little bit about the program this year and some of our 2025 deadlines, as well as some of the changes that we've been making. So if you're new to this program, you should know that it's the Research Foundation's cash matching program to help utilities address problems that they're facing, and that also may be issues for other utilities operating under similar circumstances, either regionally or nationally. This program launches in the first quarter of every year and receives 20% of WRF's annual research budget. This year, the TC budget is $1,617,294. And with the subscriber match, that brings the value for projects this year to more than $3.2 million. There are certain requirements that must be met by proposers. First, each proposal must include a utility sponsor that is current with its WRF subscription. Second, a cash match is required for each proposal. This must be cash that is paid directly to the foundation once the contracts have been finalized. Some proposers will ask if they can give money directly to the principal investigators organization, but that takes the control out of the budget and possibly the scope out of WRF's hands, so we can't allow that, unfortunately. It does have to come directly to the Research Foundation. Third, WRF will match subscriber cash on a dollar-for-dollar basis up to $150,000. And this can come from a single subscriber or from multiple subscribers. Fourth, non-subscribers may also provide cash, but WRF cannot match that funding. And finally, there are no in-kind requirements for these proposals, although they are always welcome and encouraged. So today we're going to look at three proposal models that you might consider if you're interested in participating in this program. And the three basic models utilized under this program are, the first one is scenario where utility develops a proposal and then they lead the research efforts as well. The second is a situation where a utility leads the project and they partner with the university to develop the proposal and conduct the research. And then the third type is where a utility selects their own consultant to lead the project. In some cases, the utility may help us. They may not have a consultant in mind, but they may ask us to develop an RFP and evaluate the incoming proposals. And then the selected proposal would determine the research approach. We do stress that for all of these models, a sponsoring utility is required, and that must be a subscriber in good standing, and that they do require a cash match from one or more subscribers. This year, the Tailored Collaboration Program launched on February 6th, and we are taking a two-phase approach to the program that requires both pre-proposal and full proposal submittals. Pre-proposals are due on June 2nd, and this is the phase where we've made the biggest change in the TC program this year. First, the pre-proposal requirements have been streamlined quite a bit, so there are fewer administrative requirements. And we want to focus on the proposal, not the red tape. And second, only the TCRC and staff will review the pre-proposals. The expert panel, which we've used in the past, will be formed at a later date once we determine what types of projects we have and what kind of experts we need to review each proposal. So at this pre-proposal stage, we will provide constructive feedback to all proposers to help with their full proposal development, and then we'll invite them to submit their full proposals. This is no longer an elimination stage. It's a stage to help the pre-proposers produce a better full proposal later. So full proposals will be due in early September, which should give proposers at least 45 days to review their feedback and to prepare their full proposals. All three groups of reviewers, the TCRC, Tailored Collaboration Review Committee, the expert panel, and WR staff will review the full proposals, and the TCRC will decide on which proposals will receive the awards. And this will be done in late October, and notifications will be made shortly thereafter. If you need more information about the program, you can find information on our website at this address here. It's really easy to find. If you go to our website, all our programs are described under the Research tab. And we also have, under the Tailored Collaboration Program section, we also have a list of questions that are frequently asked and answers to those. So that should be very helpful for you. And so now I will turn it back over to Kenan to announce our speakers.
Thank you, Mary. And if you have any questions about the program, please put them on the chat. Again, we will address those questions at the end of our presentation. So next speaker is Bradley Schmitz. He's going to talk about Project 5269. Bradley?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me to talk about our project. We're very excited to share, and we feel like it's making a large contribution not only to our region, but hopefully the data and information we find from this project can be utilized globally. So really excited to share how we set up our project. But first, give a little bit of background to everyone. I work for Loud & Water. We are a 3 services utility within the DC metro area. We're about 25 miles northwest of DC. You can see in that map there, that half gray block is the DC border. And you can see that there's multiple watersheds along the Potomac River that flow down into the DC area, but primarily the Dulles area watershed, or a larger watershed incorporating all of them, is the Potomac River watershed. Loud & Water gets our primary source water from the Potomac River. We utilize that water to provide drinking water services, wastewater services, and reclaimed water services in our service area to about 300,000 people, well more than 300,000 people now, 80,000 households, and we are the data center capital of the world. So currently we have over 70 data centers that we provide reclaimed water to. In the near future, we're going to have well over 100. So we're setting the pace for the data center market. And as our boundaries continue to grow and we continue to provide more of these services, we're one of the fastest growing counties in the entire United States. We also utilized what we would refer to as kind of a pseudo indirect portable reuse type scenario, where I told you we use drinking water from the Potomac River. We take up that drinking water. We provide it to our customers. They then provide their contributions via the sewage wastewater collection system to us, that we treat then for the reclaimed water. And then our treatment plant discharges a proportion back into the Potomac River, which is our discharge is upstream of many users of the Potomac River. Downstream, over 5 million people utilize the Potomac River for drinking water sources. And we are one of the most upstream dischargers in the DC metro area. So it's very important for us to have very high quality water that we're treating in our wastewater facility that's discharged. And with that, we have a very strong one water mindset. We know that we are connected to the Potomac River, that we are responsible for providing clean drinking water, but also that clean discharge to our users. And in effect, one important thing I forgot to mention is after we discharge in the Potomac River, and then that water is taken up downstream just a few miles by our close partners, Fairfax Water, which wholesales drinking water to us. So in effect, we are actually discharging just upstream of ourselves, in essence, in this portable reuse scheme. And with this one water mindset, making sure that we are doing the best we can to have the best quality water possible for our customers, we decided to really look at what are the PFAS potential sources of contamination throughout the entire watershed. And you can see on this map, there's many different data points. This is put together by a program called the DWIS, which I'll explain in a little bit. But throughout the entire watershed, historically, there was numerous studies that were collecting PFAS samples. However, these samples really could not be compared because there's different methods, different labs, government agencies, voluntary sampling, utilities utilizing their own sampling, different sampling methods, different people, different timelines, and the vast majority of these were really just one point in time, right? One, go out, let's collect a sample, let's see what we get. There really wasn't a well thought through really sampling program for the region, and utilities and agencies were really kind of on their own trying to figure out what is really PFAS, where this PFAS levels in contamination potentially in our watershed, and how do we start thinking about high dollar cost investments, treatment capacities, discharges if we do have PFAS. So many questions that were unknown. But really, even more unknown was when we looked at these data that were hard to compare, for all the reasons I gave, there was a drastic amount of variability. And that variability we figured could be associated with numerous different things. It could be environmental variability, or seasonality, water quality. Maybe there's more PFAS after a storm, or higher total suspended solids, or just in general areas of the geography where there's maybe lower flow, or stratification in the river, right? Or could it just be simply variability from sample processing from different labs, different methods? Going historically through the data, there's EPA method 533, 537.1, 1633. Detection limits have improved. Different laboratories have come online with the capability. So really, we're comparing apple to an orange to a grape to a cherry. It was really hard to determine really what was consistent. And then also there's the general PFAS presumptive sources, is the vast majority of what we're seeing because of actual discharges from manufacturers, or is it from stormwater runoff? Is it from precursors breaking down? Are there point sources? Is it legacy PFAS from decades ago? Landfills? Really trying to get a true understanding of what we were seeing within the watershed was nearly impossible. And as I mentioned, kind of everyone was on their own, trying to figure this out, trying to say, well, we may or may not have this problem, or seeing PFAS or not, but how does that compare with our neighbors? And we all share this Potomac River source together to provide these services to our customers. So how do we maybe share this data and come up with a consistent message, but also maybe work together to solve the problem rather than having to be out on our own? So in the DC metro area, there is a partnership called the Drinking Water Source Protection Partnership. And it's essentially a consortium of government agencies as well as utilities and other organizations that come together for source water protection of this valuable resource. And you can see there's numerous logos on this slide to really show this is the number of participants that we were thinking we need to put together something where everyone can be involved, everyone's voices are heard, and we have the same exact goals and objectives for what we're doing with PFAS. And that led us to realizing that a tailored collaboration, which was already described, would be a perfect opportunity for us, really, because one, it allows us to all come together with a combined objective. So obviously there's funding tied to it that we were very excited about, but really even more advantageous for us was this was a collection of us to come together where we could say, all right, let's all write a proposal in which we agree and we have the same exact deliverables, we have the same exact messaging, we know that we're using a consistent lab for all of these methods, and we're working together as a team to solve this problem. So it really provided an avenue for us to really combine together, while also leveraging a good investment. We knew that we would have to pay for some of this PFAS sampling, but really it wasn't necessarily about the PFAS sampling. It was about the interpretation for what's going on within our region. What are we seeing? We need experts to work with us that understand PFAS and understand different watersheds to really help us hone in on what we're seeing. And so the utilities came together from that DWISP and decided this is the amount of partnership that we can put together, and each organization defined what their role could be in such a research project. As you can see in the top left, we figured that there would be some principal investigators. Loud and Water, we historically knew, but historically have a research program, so we're very familiar with how to build research, document it, find the right partners, funding opportunities. What does it take to have a successful research program, which we are trying to share with all of our partners and teach them how to do it. But we were asked to be the principal investigator because we're a subscriber, but also could help guide the other utilities throughout this process. Associated with us then also was WSSC Water, who also has the same background, but even more so expertise dealing with specific partnerships throughout the watersheds. And then coordinating with some research organizations, the Interstate Commission on the Potomac River Basin, who's familiar with the river, the geography, there's different stratification, and really has expertise to go collect samples on the river and know where those samples can be best collected. They really have a true understanding of mile by mile what's happening in the river. And then also consultants and researchers within our region that we knew could help us with the interpretation, could help us with the lab processing, could develop these methods within our region, and we could have a centralized area where we could take these samples and have them all processed in a way that really wasn't just sending our samples off and then getting a PDF back, but sending our samples to a group and they teach us what they're doing. They're guiding us through the methodologies, what they're seeing, really a lot more hands-on interpretation, sample by sample. And I'll talk about kind of workshops for utility engagement and how they were involved. And then left it open to the utilities to really say, what is your level of participation? And a collaborating utility are those that said, this is really important to us. We're willing to provide $10,000 worth of in-kind contribution, whereas the associate utility said, we definitely want to be a part of this. We support it, but we just don't maybe have the staff time availability. We'll provide 5,000, whatever they're able to be a partner, but really left it up to their level of commitment. And then the non-utility partner on the top right is the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments. And this is a key partner who understands all the different drivers for the different partners within this project, but also the utilities do pay yearly dues to the COG. We call it the MW COG, and COG then has a bucket of money that was available for research in which all the utilities had already contributed to. So essentially, it was a very easy, good way for all the utilities to combine funds through one organization through COG, and then COG was able to provide that cash match to the Water Research Foundation in our proposal. So we realize we have a strong group, we have a strong a deliverable, what we need out of this that we feel could apply to the rest of the globe, really, on a watershed PFAS kind of source tracking / variability discovery type of project. I already mentioned that the utilities combined funds through NWCOG, and COG provided that contribution for the cash match. The Water Research Foundation then provided the $150,000 cash match when we were awarded. And then the utilities, given the last slide together initially upon the proposal, said we would all add up to about a little over $125,000 of in-kind. I will tell you today we are maybe a third way through the study and way beyond that in-kind, because we just were able to show the value of this research. And the region's been really bought in and really engaged. I think we're probably going to go well over $200,000 for the in-kind when the project's over. But how do we structure it? I talked about the different principal investigators. So Loud and Water is the principal investigator, given our background for we are a subscriber, so we're eligible, but also we understood kind of how the contracting mechanisms work with the foundation. And so we were asked to be the PI, but really I'll mention it's a pretty simple task, just a little bit of contracting, but we're just organizing essentially. And then ICPRB handles all of the sample collection. They're included as a principal investigator. And then Johns Hopkins Stantec Alliance does the EPA method 1633. And George Mason, which is now Dr. Kenan first, is transferred to a new institution, Virginia Tech. So we've transferred that responsibility for the TOPS assay to Virginia Tech. But essentially, we structured it to where Loud and Water is the main recipient of the funding from the foundation. And then we subcontract those 3 different organizations. And those organizations are included in as co-principal investigators, given their commitment to the project, but also they want to, they deserve the credit for being involved and helping guide us and publishing this research at the end of the day to be able to share our findings. So we structured it in what we believe was kind of a very simplistic organization, kind of way in which, again, Land and Water, myself as a principal investigator, and then we defined easily what each group's main objectives were and deliverables were for the project. And then those were assigned principal or co-principal investigators, and they're responsible for those individual portions of the project. And WSSC, which was not included in the last slide, was also included as a co-principal investigator because they're helping Land and Water a lot with the organization of getting all the partners together while we're handling maybe the research side, and I do a lot of the organization of the other co-PIs and the funding mechanisms. WSSC helps alleviate some of that in-kind contribution on our end by providing their services to coordinate all the utilities for workshops and things like that. So there's 4 main tasks for this project. The first one was I showed you throughout the watershed, there's a vast number of potential sampling locations where data is being collected. So we decided we're very thankful for the contribution that the foundations they provide, but there's never enough money to try to evaluate every PFAS constituent and sampling location throughout the watershed. So we realized we really need to be smart about this and prioritize, come up with a prioritization mechanism for selecting our sample locations, and then collect those from those sampling locations throughout 12 months and compare those results to all of the different potential variability aspects that I mentioned earlier, whether it be environmental, sample collection methods, what may be causing that variability. And then at the end of the day, take all the findings we have from this project and try to see if there are other best management practices that we can help mitigate any potential PFAS problem. Well, that's a pretty big task, right? And I told you we broke it down into co-PIs and they're focused on their goals. But really, in order for this project to be most applied or most successful for the region, we needed engagement from all of our partners that decided to be participants at whatever level they were able to provide. So on this side, you see that we have our tasks and we have our deliverables, but what's even most key throughout, we set it up to where all the participating utilities, as we go through the project, as we go from one major task to the next, we have workshops in which those participating utilities are learning about what we've been doing, are able to hear directly from us what findings we had, but most importantly, guide us in our next step. Say, maybe the project was going this way. This is what's going to be most applied, or your sampling location here actually truly isn't the best prioritization. You should focus on this one. So we really made sure that the buy-in and the contribution from these participating utilities was really there. And again, so just a reminder that all the participants were really through the DWIS program, and they were able to show their level of contribution at whatever level they were comfortable with. And so through these workshops, we've been able to select 10 locations throughout the Potomac River that kind of justify where the best sampling aspects are. During this workshop, before the workshop, we had a literature review that was split amongst different groups that were assigned different papers and websites and wherever they could find about different kind of PFAS sampling methodologies and what to see in rivers, what was the information we need to hone in on. We shared all that information as a group, and then asked all the utility representatives if they were to rank and prioritize what locations. We had pre-selected about 30 to 40 locations along the river. Can you guys rank from most important to least important what those highest priority sampling locations would be? And we were able to come up with these final 10 locations that would summarize the most effective route. And I'm leaving out a lot of detail, but mainly trying to just show that this is more so a partnership collaboration. The details of the actual findings will come out in the report in the future. But again, at the end of the day, we're really trying to take everything we find from this project, bring it back to all the participants in a final workshop that we're calling really a perspectives workshop. We're not going to be able to detail out exactly everything that's going to happen in future years in order to mitigate any potential PFAS sources, or our main goal is identifying what's causing variability in our results. But maybe we can get different agencies. Our goal is to bring government agencies, other utilities, and citizen groups, whoever may be willing to participate in a workshop, just to hear their perspectives after we share the results, to then document that and come up with a plan as a team moving forward. And this is really just kind of the next steps. One amazing thing from this project was, after gathering everyone and putting together this proposal with all the different participating utilities from the DWISP, since we were awarded, and this project's now been ongoing for over a year, 2 utilities from that original partnership last year submitted for their own tailored collaboration programs, and were both awarded. So really, the success of this program is showing that there is a route for utilities to find additional funding and support to maybe tackle some of these initiatives and get staff time, kind of set aside to tackle some initiatives that maybe they weren't able to without that support. So we're going to continue. This is only phase 1. This project is only phase 1 of this project. We do anticipate that this will continue on, but the other major finding from this is, because we're able to structure the co-PIs, we're able to establish 2 different laboratories within the area that have set capacity for us to continue to do PFAS-related research, not just either by individual utilities or as a group, and it has also now set a framework for gathering all these different organizations together into a combined research effort. And we are in the process now of actually trying to formalize that and actually create, aside from the DWISP, actually create a Mid-Atlantic research group in which then we can each year put together our thoughts and efforts to determine, is this particular project fit to try to apply for another tailored collaboration, or a facilitated project, or even funding outside the Water Research Foundation. But really, it's a great model. It's worked out really well. We've gotten buy-in from all of our partners, and we're really happy with the opportunity that Foundation's been able to provide us and help organize us. So I think that's my main findings. I can hand it over.
Well, thank you, Bradley. A great presentation. What you heard from Bradley right now is a great way of a number of utilities coming together, putting their resources together, and coming to the foundation, applying for funding. That was one of the models that we mentioned at the beginning. The next model is going to be a local university working with a local utility. So Becky and Lut, they are going to talk about their long-standing partnership and then talk about the recent TC project funding that they received. So I'll turn it to you guys.
Thank you. I think I'm up first. Can you see me? Am I doing this right with the settings? Yes?
Yep.
Yes,
Sounds
we
great.
can see you. We can see you and
All
hear
right.
you very clearly.
All right, thank you. So Becky Lahr from the city of Ann Arbor and myself from the University of Michigan are going to co-present this. So we'll go back and forth a few times. I wanted to answer one of the questions that we were asked to discuss with you, and that is, how did this partnership come about? And I thought it would be interesting to tell you that it's not something that happened overnight. I moved to the University of Michigan in 2005, almost 20 years ago now. And I knew at that time that I wanted to do research to study the impact of biofiltration in drinking water systems and disinfection on microbial communities. And I wanted to do that in full-scale systems. So I was so fortunate that the city of Ann Arbor had this perfect system for these studies. And so I reached out and met Larry Sanford, who was the water quality manager at the time. And he was very interested in supporting my research, and he loved being engaged with students. And so he was a perfect partner to get this partnership off the ground. But initially, we were just collaborating, working together. And it took about 5 years before we started writing proposals together. Initially, the city contributed in a relatively small role. But then in 2016, we decided, and this was when Brian Staglitz was taking the lead at the utility, he decided that perhaps we could go for a tailored collaboration. And so we have since then developed a few more tailored collaboration projects, and they were supported by Sarah Page, for example, and most recently by Becky Lahr, who's currently the water quality manager at the city. So it's been a long-term partnership, definitely didn't happen overnight. And reflecting on these long-term university utility partnerships, we thought perhaps it would be interesting to give you a few pointers to what it takes to keep such a partnership going. And one of the things that really stands out to us is that it's important to have really deliberate, meaningful interactions at lots of different levels. So we want to make sure that the operators are engaged with the students, for example. It's not just the principal investigators interacting with the water quality managers. These partnerships are only successful, at least if you want to keep them for the long run, when you have interactions at lots of different levels. The other really important point is that you want to develop respectful relationships that keep in mind the professional needs of all the parties. As you can imagine, a university faculty member or a PhD student needs to publish their work, and the utility may not be too keen on getting this work out right away. So there may be some conflicting interest. University wants to move as fast as they can, but the utility has to meet the regulatory requirements, and so doesn't always have time to engage in the questions from the PhD students. So there needs to be that respectful relationship, keeping in mind the professional needs of all the parties. And then perhaps most importantly is defining common goals. And this is where Becky and I are going to give you some good examples of how defining these common goals has really resulted in multiple benefits, some of which we had not anticipated. But we want to give you some examples of how these relationships have developed into benefits for all of us. And so this is a list of the benefits that we've come up with. And like I said, we'll give you some examples for these 5 benefits that we've identified. And I'm going to start with basically expanding our knowledge of real full-scale water systems. I mentioned that when I moved to Michigan, I was interested in studying the impact of biofiltration and disinfection on microbial communities in drinking water systems. So that may sound like a bit of an academic question, but it's like, okay, if I want to have impact, I better study this in a real full-scale system. And this is a very simplified schematic of the City of Ann Arbor system. So what you see is they have ozone as their primary disinfection, and that, of course, promotes biofiltration. And then you have your secondary disinfection is chloramine in the case of the City of Ann Arbor. So this is a perfect system to study these questions that I wanted to study. So I got very lucky. And I wanted to particularly focus on studying opportunistic pathogens. So this is still a bit of a hot topic, but 20 years ago, we really didn't have a good sense of how disinfection and biofiltration impacted, for example, the presence of non-tuberculous mycobacteria in drinking water systems. So it was a great topic to get started with. And we started working with our students. Here is a photo of some of our graduate students and postdocs sampling on top of the biofilters at the City of Ann Arbor. And initially, we did some preliminary work, and we realized that the biofilter, here in my schematic, really selected for these non-tuberculous mycobacteria. And here's some simple data set I'm showing in the y-axis on a log scale, the number of these non-tuberculous mycobacteria per liter of water sampled in the filter influent and in the filter effluent. And you could see there is a enrichment of these organisms in this filter. And so we started hypothesizing why that might be. So when you look at this schematic of the biofilter in a little bit more detail here at the top, you can see that the city uses chloraminated backwash water. So chloramine is added after biofiltration. Then the water from the reservoir that contains the chloramine is used to backwash the filters. So we knew that chloramine was added to the filters on a very regular basis every time there was a backwash, right? And we sampled at the top of the filter to see if any chloramine was actually measured in the filter. And what we noticed is that at the top of the filter, the chloramine concentration was at these relatively low levels, but these are perfect levels to sustain some resistant organisms and inactivate organisms that are less resistant. And so this was perhaps a perfect selection pressure for these non-tuberculous mycobacteria that are very resistant to disinfectants. So this was our hypothesis, and that's what we used to write a tailored collaboration program proposal. The city was very interested in this topic because, of course, they wanted a water that had lower levels of these non-tuberculous mycobacteria, even though this is not a regulated parameter at this point. So you can see some of the people involved here. We have, at that time, postdoc Melina Bautista and PhD student Kate Dowdell from the University of Michigan, collaborating with people like Brian Steglis and Sarah Page. And we're standing, all of us, here in front of our pilot scale biofiltration system that we used for part of this research. In terms of outcomes, we definitely improved our understanding of the NTM present in these biofilters. But the city is now using some of this work as an indicator of biofilter acclimation. So that was kind of an unintended finding that we are still using coming out of this research. And we also improved the understanding of the factors that shape these microbial communities in the biofilters and why these NTM are maintained. I'm turning things over to Becky here to talk about the second benefit.
Thank you. Another benefit that has arisen that helps to motivate these partnerships to continue over long periods of time, helps with the common goals. It's this expanded capacity to take on new collaborative projects that help us solve problems together. And so sometimes these projects would come from the university, sometimes they would come from the utility, but having these partnerships in place allows us to act quickly when things arise. And so if we look at, here's an example of one of those projects. So after this WRF tailored collaboration project, Melina's, the 4743, we continued to study the microbial impacts in our filters. And at this time, we had discovered PFAS in our source water, and we were working to mitigate that. We replaced the media in our filters from F300 to F400, and we were observing increases in nitrification within our filters. And so with that, we set up this project. Sarah Portgeider, one of Lut's postdocs at the time, she was monitoring filter startup after we would replace the carbon. We were replacing the carbon more frequently than we had in the past in order to remove more PFAS. So she monitored the filter startup, and she looked at the impact of that new media on nitrification and look at those microbial communities as they're established in that new carbon. With that, we were able to implement some changes to operations. We monitored the filter more often after carbon replacement, watching for signs of nitrification, looking at nitrite concentrations and other things. And we adjusted the dates of our granular activated carbon changeouts to fit the season where we saw the least nitrification issues. So we no longer replace our carbon in June. We more often stick to March, and in fall, something like October, when we replace our media. We also have plans now in place in response to this study in our nitrification control plan. So if we do see signs of nitrification in our filters more than usual after a change out, we have strategies, we're ready to jump in and act to mitigate that. So this is just one example of a project that arose after one of those tailored collaborations, but it also is an example of a way we were able to implement changes to our operations based on the research results. A few other examples of that would be our project, WRF Project 5151. This was another tailored collaboration, the impact of UV treatment on microbial communities in our water plant and in our distribution system. This project, we recently submitted our draft final report for this project, so still in the works to some degree, but some outcomes of this project on operations. We have a plan coming in the next 5 to 10 years to replace our interim UV system with a permanent installation. We put that interim system in place in 2020, and so we have a chance here to test it out before we put in the full permanent installation. And so with this project, we have a chance to change that system itself. We also, the UV system was installed knowing that we needed disinfection credit certain times of year. But through that project, we have more information now to inform using it full-time versus using it just when we need it for credit. We also have another spin-off project coming from this. So for many of these tailored collaborations, we answer a lot of questions. We've learned more about our system. We have more ideas, but we still have more questions. And so here's another case of that, where we're going to do additional testing this summer to look at the optimal dose that can help us with some of the opportunistic pathogen control. We do know that UV system is helping us with some of our reservoir water quality, but we have some more questions that we will continue to study over time. So another tailored collaboration project that we haven't started yet, our kickoff date is coming next month, is this tailored collaboration project 5344. And here we're investigating the effect of operational strategies on microbial biomass in our filters and looking at how we can extend the lifetime of our media, as well as watch PFAS control and other things in our filters. So with this project, we don't have examples quite yet of how we have changed operations, but some ideas are things that when we design this project, we are looking for it to inform our plant replacement that's coming up in the next 5 to 10 years. We've had some ideas about changing something like our chloramination point. And so this project can help to inform that for us, but also we'll have some outcomes we hope for other utilities across the country as well, looking at reducing GAC replacement as well. So more to come on this project in the future about what operational changes we're able to make. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lute then to talk about this next point.
All right, thank you, Becky. Yes, and another benefit that has come out for us is that we are really feel that we are helping with creating the future of the industry to some extent, so to speak. And we've worked on that deliberately, for example, by organizing a statewide workshop where we invited utility professionals from about 30 utilities and academic researchers from other universities besides the University of Michigan to kind of discuss the interest in developing partnerships like the one that we are talking to you about, and see what the interest might be to expand that model beyond the University of Michigan and the city of Ann Arbor. We called it the Drinking Water Innovation Salon, and we organized this event back in 2019. It was very well received and there was a lot of interest, but then of course the pandemic hit, and so not much has happened since then. But we have begun the planning of a second Drinking Water Innovation Salon, and we are planning this the day before this conference that we're organizing every 3 years at the University of Michigan, the Borchardt Conference on Water and Wastewater. So on May 4th, we're planning the second workshop, and we're hoping then to continue these discussions of these partnerships and how they can benefit other utilities. The other benefit coming out of this is that we can, as a university, really take advantage of the amazing experienced water professionals to assist us with educating our students and training future water professionals. So, for example, Brian Seglitz taught a course at the University of Michigan. He called it Practical Engineering Solutions to Drinking Water Challenges. It was really well received by our students, particularly because it involved hands-on real-world learning at the water treatment plant from an industry perspective. So that's just another example of how these partnerships can really result in unintended benefits. And then we think that we also contribute to workforce development through these partnerships because the city recruits interns that we help them find, and they really are usually amazing resources for the utility. And then through these positive experiences, some of these students are motivated to join the water industry. A final benefit is the one that Becky is going to share with you.
So one more benefit is this improved and consumer trust in drinking water by sharing our collaborative work. We did discover PFAS in our surface water, and we had many questions from our consumers at the time. Quite a bit of media stories coming out about the concentrations of things coming down the river. And so we came up with a strategic plan for communications. And one item on there is that we frequently share information with our customers, good or bad, about concentrations of different things, but also anything going on in the plant that might be of interest to our customers. So we're always writing articles in a newsletter about things we're doing, research we're doing relating to PFAS or other things. So these kinds of research projects that we have with the university. So here's just one example where there's a news article about the university students operating our pilot plant and some of the things that they're doing there. And so these kinds of this kind of information that goes out to our customers and to our community, they help to demonstrate our expertise and to help to show the kinds of things that we're doing. We want our customers to be calling us when they have questions about these kinds of projects rather than asking their neighbor, perhaps. And so it provides a narrative, but also helps us to be a primary source of information for our customers. And so this is something that it's part of our strategic plan for communications, but we also track these kinds of metrics in our quarterly metrics to see how we're doing on some of our goals. It's in our strategic plan. And so this partnership with the university, it not only helps with things like optimizing our operations, but also helps with some of our other goals in our strategic planning. And so with that, we hope that this list of examples does encourage other utilities who may be thinking about starting these partnerships or have these partnerships. But also this list of benefits, it comes to be very helpful to us, the utility, as we're coming up with the cash match for these projects. So we have to work these cash matches into our budgets far ahead of when we have the project written. And so having benefits in addition to just the project and changes that might come from operations, having these other items that are worked into our strategic plan and our communications plan, these other items help us to sell that as we're putting together our budgets. So when it comes to suggestions for other subscribers who are considering tailored collaboration funding, the first item on this list is building in that cash match and having a sense of where that cash match might come from in the annual budgets. We do have to put those in our budgets far in advance. So having that list of benefits and having that partnership already in place really does help us to sell this when we're trying to get that funding through our system. The universities, they can provide some matching funds, but in our experience, they may not be able to allow those funds to send those funds to WRF as is required by the program. And so with that leaves us as the utility, we do have to find a way to find that cash match and justify it early on as we're putting together our budgets. So the university, they can provide in-kind matching funds. They've been able to provide quite a bit of in-kind matching funds, which also helps us to sell it when we're coming up with, when we're looking for the cash matching in our budgets. The university can provide in-kind, but not send the cash to WRF. So another item, the university has been able to reduce the indirect cost of their work and save more fund for research by having their students work at the utility. So for work that's at the utility, the indirect cost rate is lower than for work happening on their site. And so that's been another way we've been able to be creative with the research funding to make it go a little bit further. So with that, if you have questions, you can ask them in the Q&A, or here's our contact information as well if you have more items for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky, and thank you, Lotte, for great presentation. Again, this was another example of showing how a local university or local utility can work with the local university. So third model that we want to investigate or describe that you can submit a proposal under TC program is how a utility can work with a consulting company. So Leon, Levi, and Jonathan will cover that. Okay, guys, it's your turn.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks everyone for attending today. Let's see if I can get this right. So we're giving a pretty high just to give a sense of what we were targeting, and then we spent a lot of time trying to adjust some of the questions about how we developed this partnership, what some of the main benefits were, and how we're executing the research. Let's see here. All right, so our project objectives were really, I think both Black and Veatch and the district were very interested in kind of this balancing out of carbon for carbon diversion, like advanced primary treatment, energy recovery, and then thinking about how that impacts nutrient removal, how it impacts treatment capacity from a densification standpoint, and then also building that into some of the questions around like emissions from like N2O. So as we started to develop our objectives and kind of thinking through the research we may collaborate on, we just had similar questions that we were going to be exploring. And so one was like, okay, how does primary filtration or advanced primary treatment kind of influence this overall carbon balance, right? If we send more carbon to the digesters, how much energy does that produce versus how does that impact BioP and nitrogen removal, right? So just trying to really understand like all these topics, like in the kind of biological treatment system space, nutrient removal space, energy space that we kind of think of in a little bit of a silo, like really just bringing it all together and trying to understand like, okay, how do we really address this? How do we find the balance from these different drivers and do it in a way that we're doing experimental work, but also supplementing that with some modeling work so that the district can have really good insights into what their research program is going to look like, or not the research program, but their implementation strategy would look like. But also so that we can provide that information to the industry so that people can reference the report eventually and really get a good sense of, okay, if you're looking at these conditions, how do we drive forward with those? So the goal, right, to better define the interplay of energy, carbon, energy, nutrient removal, and densification to guide WRFs to becoming utilities of the future. And so our number is 5271. So kind of a quick kind of testing approach. We were kind of looking at like a conventional EBPR system. We're looking at side stream EBPR system where we have RAS fermenter kind of hydrolyzing particulate COD, and then a conventional EBPR with raw influent, right? So if we say, okay, is it better to just send like all of our raw wastewater to an activated sludge system and get really, really good nutrient removal? Or is it better to be diverting some of that carbon for energy production and maybe make nutrient removal a little more complex? And so we started to kind of implement this testing approach, do the experimental plan. It's really a combination of different efforts. So we have, so Levi and kind of his team on site running, 3 different pilot scale reactors. So we're actually experimentally testing, these different configurations, the different types of primary treatment levels, the different nutrient removal configurations. And as we're doing that experimentally, we're looking at settlability, we're looking at microscopy, we're looking at nutrient removal performance. We're doing BMP testing on the different biomasses to really understand like biogas production rates. And what we're doing is kind of systematically developing experimental results for these different wastewater conditions and BNR configurations, and then extrapolating that with process modeling to help provide guidance and understanding of like, okay, if we do, direct raw wastewater into a BNR process, what is the whole plant energy balance? How does that impact our ability to get good densification in our system? And how sensitive is it to different wastewater characteristics? And so that's a really high level summary. Like we didn't quite go into as much depth as some of the other projects, but that's what we've been testing. It's been a lot of work to kind of get SBRs up and running. I know the team at the district, they really fought some pretty cold conditions this winter that created some pilot issues. But we're starting to get some results and present at conferences and really see some of these balances that we talk about a lot and we do modeling around a lot, but we're having real experimental results. And again, the benefits for the district are that they're going through nutrient removal upgrades. They're going to have to make some really big decisions at a lot of their facilities in the coming years. It helps them to guide their decisions. But for the industry, it also helps to inform and help others build on the research work that the district has been doing. So when our team kind of came together, apologize, it's a little small when I pasted in here, but we kind of set it up where, like, I'm the PI from Black and Veatch. Levi's the co-PI from the district, and we're really kind of managing the research project together. We have some technical advisors, both from Black and Veatch and from the district. So Jonathan Grabawi, who's on the call today, is one of our technical advisors, and similar to the other org charts that we kind of saw, we broke it up into different scopes, right? So I mean, really, kind of the execution of the research work, the pilot, that's a lot led by the district. When you get into the modeling and the guidelines, that's more of what Black and Veatch kind of brings to the table. As far as funding goes, the cash contribution came from MWR DGC. Black and Veatch, we had budgeted some of our own research dollars for internal work to be investigating some of these topics. So we were able to bring a lot of in-kind support. We also brought purchasing some of the equipment support. So when you combine those two things together, plus then the matching funds from WRF, it really helps to amplify the investments. It really helps to capitalize on the fact that the district was going to be doing some SBR testing already. Now we can do more, be a little more thorough, and really make it a pretty comprehensive investigation. Levi, Jonathan, you want anything on the kind of overall kind of high-level summary of the project? Otherwise, I'll go into the questions that WRF asked us to answer. Oh, Levi, I can't hear you. I don't know if it's just me.
So thank you. No, I think you did great, Leon. Yeah, from our perspective, it kind of started from you approaching us, and we just talked about some stuff we were planning to do already, and what can we do to make it more with a WRF proposal?
I do want to add something when it comes to the funding, just for all the non-government people out there, for the consultants and all the researchers who want to partner on these TRC programs. They're a wonderful program. It's a wonderful vehicle for getting some research moving forward. But this was the first TRC that the MWRD has participated in. And it was a learning experience on our end, but we did nail down a process. So when Levi approached us, he approached us with plenty of time for us to plan for it in the budget, because our budget process takes about 6 months, and we have to go through a whole board approval to get our budget in place. So he approached us. This was a 2023 award, I think. So he approached us in 2022, and we started talking about it, or was it 2020? Yeah, at the end of 2023. He approached us a year before we actually submitted the application to start working on this, and that's about the amount of time we need to get the ball rolling to get this funding. Several other times in the past, I've been approached by TRC and saying, "Hey, I need $150,000 and I need it in a month." A government agency can't come up with that money that quickly. We have a lot of checks and balances in place. So for anyone who's potentially thinking of a TRC, it's very important to communicate with your project sponsor, like a government agency, early and understand their funding cycles to be able to get the funding on these types of projects. That's critical to success, making sure everything's on the line. And then on our end, we had to do a lot of negotiation on this because we're separated into different departments. So once Leon came to us, he talked to us, we had to talk to the operation department to bring them on board, make them aware of this so they would understand that their operations weren't going to be impacted, and to try and work this program in, work this project in so it wouldn't be disruptive to our everyday operations.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, guys. That's some good background on how we kind of build this relationship, right, and how we got to this Black and Veatch MWR-DGC partnership. So, yeah. So the next slides that we wanted to touch on was just, I think our intent is really to help others understand how these come together and how we submit. So how do we, build a partnership? And Luke really gave some nice discussion around this. Is that a lot of these partnerships that we have for these tailored collaborations are based on like a longer relationship, right? Like having interacted for a long period of time, like, kind of having a couple of different entities, whether it's a university and utility or a consultant and utility, where you've done projects together and you just kind of keep collaborating to kind of develop your research avenues, right? So when I look kind of how we ended up partnering, Black and Beach in the district, we've done several things together, right? So we had the WAR 4975, which was the S2 EVPR report. That Chicago was a huge contributor to that overall research project that was published in 2003. We've written a few papers together on different BNR topics. We've done some consulting work. So there was kind of a history there of having that collaborative environment, right, with Jonathan and Levi and also Joe Kozak, myself, my kind of farmer. So there's just a history there, from executing the research. A lot of our staff are kind of in Illinois. I'm in Wisconsin, but it's not too far away. So there's some geography there that helps to build that partnership as well. And really, I think finding the complementary skill sets, right? Like for a consultant, I always joke, I don't have my own wastewater plant to do research at. So I have to make friends and go do research other places. But we bring a lot of, skills around like modeling, some of the emerging ideas around like emissions. And so it was a nice partnership that way, where there were really good, like complementary skill sets to really amplify the research work and find ways to fund it. So that's, I think that kind of builds on all what Jonathan was just saying, is that it takes time. Like you've got to have some forethought on this. And it's, from like my perspective as the consultant, it's, I wouldn't want to show up and say, hey, we've got these research interests together. Can you give me $150,000 in 2 months? Right. It's a much longer process than that, where you collaborate, you think of ideas, and then you find a way to fund it. The second kind of question that Worf asked us to touch on a little bit was kind of the pre-proposal and proposal process. And I find this to be super helpful, right? We collaborate a little bit and develop this 5-page sort of like high-level summary of like what we want to do, right? Like, why do you want to do it? What's the impact? And in general, how are you going to do it? And it doesn't take a lot of time to write 5 pages, but it does take some good thinking time to submit that. And so once you put that together, it really then aids in developing the full proposal, right? Because now, and I think the timelines really help out too, because then, it was, let's say, February, March, when Black and Beach and the districts first started talking about it. Then we submitted a pre-proposal in June, a full proposal in September, right? So it's almost, it's 9 months from the time we first start talking about it. So you submit like a full proposal. And so it kind of builds on that timeline that Jonathan was talking about. But the feedback you get in the pre-proposal phase is really helpful, right? It helps you to see like, where are our gaps? How can we make this program stronger, right? I wasn't on this particular one, but a different TC proposal, we actually had a suggestion of a partner that we added in that really strengthened the kind of approach and the execution of it. So I think it's a really nice step. I like how Worf has this set up for those thinking of doing it, that it can kind of sometimes be intimidating to sit down and have to go to a full 25-page approach. This 5-page approach allows you to get the basis down, kind of drives you to get your ideas in place, and then you can get some feedback on it and really help to improve that final submission for the full proposal. So I think that's a really nice process. I think if you haven't done this before, it really does aid in strengthening your research program, helping to really define your questions, and just making sure that you can actually do everything that you're going to say you're going to do. Levi, Jonathan, anything you want to comment on the pre-proposal proposal process?
Nope. Sounds good.
Excellent. So a couple more slides. So communicating the benefits. This is one thing like Jonathan brought up is, how do you get people kind of engaged on board? So we actually collaborated and developed a little fact sheet on this research project, right? So that it was a little easier to communicate, like, hey, why are we doing this, right? Like, what's the value to Chicago? What's the value to kind of the industry? And that helped to really strengthen the core goals of the project, right? I think it helped Jonathan to communicate, right, to the board and other people in his departments.
It
Well, I want to add on that. It's very important to it's very important to break it down so everyone can kind of understand what we're trying to achieve, and it shows the benefits and lehighlights the strength of this program, and that was the key thing in that document that the team over at with Leon put together. So it was a wonderful communication tool that they built. So that document was really key in helping communicate this to get approval for the funding.
Yeah, so I think that's, and it ties it in, and I think it's helped us to kind of keep that perspective too as we move through this. That this TC program is really benefiting. Is you're amplifying your investment, right? So Levi was going to be running some SBRs with Cindy already. Like, hey, we get a little more money, we get a little more funding, and now we can look at even more get areas, right, and really expand that. So it's that communication piece is really important to make this really work well. Kind of our last slide is just kind of advice, lessons learned. I think this kind of echoes what the previous speakers kind of touched on, but it is a really great program. You can really explore a research topic of importance to like some specific subscribers. You know, this particular one is one subscriber, but there's others that obviously have more subscribers involved, and it helps to bring people together. It helps to just amplify your investment and really take like maybe a small project and make it a pretty decently funded project, right? I mean, you can really do quite a bit of money or quite a bit of research if you go for the full $150,000 and you get that $150,000 of matching, and then you bring in some partners that can do in kind. And I mean, really, the district was doing a lot of we called it in kind anyways, right? With some of the SBR operation and their staff time. So it's really a valuable way to accelerate what you may already be doing. And make it more applicable for you, but also more impactful for the industry. Kind of touched on this second bullet already, but the pre-proposal and proposal process is really kind of a great step to kind of refine your research and approach, right? And really kind of help you give the time to put a good proposal together and put a good research program together. You know, you're not cramming. Like I know when the RFPs come out, and I appreciate that WRF gives us 6 to 8 weeks to put those RFPs together. That always seems a little crammed. Like here, you've got to have your ideas done by June, and then you still have all the way until late September to really put the full proposal together. So it gives you more time to really think through it and make it a stronger proposal. And the last bullet, I kind of touched on this already, but it's an excellent means to leverage research that you've already planned, right? If you're planning to do some level of research already, and you can get your a board to say, yeah, we'll write a check for X dollars for some matching funds. You can really double, triple your actual investment pretty easily, and do a lot more research and really answer more questions. So that's all we have prepared today. Levi, Jonathan, any closing thoughts you want to throw out there?
I just think I want to thank WRF for putting this, having this program. It's been a very beneficial program, and we look forward to utilizing this program moving forward too.
Excellent. Well, I think
Thank you.
That's on to the back to you, Kenan.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate all the good summary on your partnership. I do want to, before we get to the Q&A, I do want to clarify that I appreciated hearing from you about how our pre-proposal step is simple enough. We did simplify the process even further this year. Now instead of asking 3 pages pre-proposal, please have a look at our guidelines. Again, you'll find it even simpler than the past times. So we did receive quite a bit good questions. So I'm going to turn to Alice Fulmer. She's our Director of Subscriber Services, to moderate this portion of the webcast. Alice?
Well, great. Thank you so much, Kenan, and really appreciate hearing all of those wonderful presentations from our research teams and utilities. What a fantastic suite of projects, and it's really clear to see why they were selected for funding. So yeah, with that, let's go ahead and get to the questions. And if you have one that you have not yet submitted, please, there's still time. Just type that in the chat and we'll get to as many as we can. If we run out of time, we'll follow up with you afterwards. So the first question I'm going to ask here, I believe this will be for you, Kenan. Is the payment from the sponsoring utility a one-time upfront payment of the full amount, or are there payments portioned over the life of the project based on progress and billing?
Well, that's a great question. Our preference is if we can get the payment upfront, that is helpful. However, for those utilities that are contributing more than $50,000, we can actually do a payment plan. In those cases, we will go with a 2 payment plans, maybe half of it or portion of it upfront, and the other half is depending on the utilities approval process. It could be somewhere maybe 6 months after the project starts, but preferably we would like to get all the money within a year that the project starts. So again, hopefully that answers the question. Alice?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you, Kenan. So we have another one about the pre-proposal. If the pre-proposal is expected, is that confirmation that the proposal will be funded?
That is an excellent question. The pre-proposal is a screening process that we do. So this year, again, we did change our processes. We will receive pre-proposals. We will look at them and provide comments. Receiving pre-proposal does not mean that a research team or utility funding from the foundation. We will still require full proposal submission. And full proposals then will be reviewed by our tailored collaboration review committee, our internal staff, as well as our expert panel. And then we will rank those proposals and then make the funding decision. I do want to underline here that pre-proposal submission is a requirement in order to submit a full proposal. Then due date for the pre-proposals this year is June 2nd. So please pay attention to that.
Great. That's a good clarification. Thank you, Kenan. So again, about the pre-proposal process, what level of commitment is either required or recommended from the proposed utility consultant university partners?
At the pre-proposal stage, we are not asking any commitment. What we are reviewing at the pre-proposal stage is the idea. However, in order to submit a pre-proposal needs to be sponsored by a utility, and yet that utility be a subscriber of the foundation. That is the only requirement we have at that point. More information you provide us at the pre-proposal will help us to provide better input for your full proposal submission.
Okay, great. And the same individual who asked that question also wanted to know, did they hear correctly that the Water Research Foundation may use the pre-proposal process to help identify consultant partners or contributors that may align well with the project?
Currently, we don't do that. However, we do have the subscriber services department. So if you have an idea that you are coming to the foundation and you would like to see if you can find partners like other utilities that may want to participate, feel free to reach to us. We will do everything we can from our end to communicate your research idea to our other subscribers that may want to participate in the project. If the question is around if the foundation can help to find the research team, we do have a process for that. One of the models that we did not describe in this webcast, however, Mary touched base briefly in her presentation, is RFP. So if the utility has an idea, has the funding, but would like us to find the right research team to do the project, we can work with the utility. If the idea is something that we would like to move forward, we can issue an RFP to find the research team that can help us with the project.
Perfect. Thanks, Kenan. And I'll talk a little bit more about subscriber services support here in just a couple of minutes. Mm-hmm. Another question about in-kind services in general. Can you describe what some types of in-kind services might be or what's meant there?
So as in-kind can be either additional time that is being put by the research team. In-kind can come from analytical. In-kind can come from indirect cost rate. It's just a typical extra efforts that people put into the project that could be counted as an in-kind. I just want to clarify that, again, in order to play in this program, utilities will need to bring cash, and we will match that cash. Any additional support then can put into the in-kind category.
Great, thank you. So along those same lines, this one's about that cash match. So are grants and awards from other institutions eligible for that cash match?
Unfortunately, they are not. So in order to, again, to submit a proposal under this program, hard cash has to come to the foundation. So once we approve your idea, your full proposal, at that point, foundation will sign a contract with the utility, that is, or utilities that are providing cash, to get that cash to the foundation. Then we will put our match on top of it, and then manage the project budget as one budget from our end.
All right, great. Thank you, Kenan. We've also received some questions for each of the research teams. I believe we have one per team. So let's start going back with Bradley Smith with Loudon Water. So this one is about the sites for your project. At least I think this one is for you. Did you select any sites, sampling sites where biosolids are applied?
No, we didn't. We focused primarily just on surface water samples, so at the main stem and tributaries of the Potomac River, because we're focused mainly on the variability of results we're seeing in the source water. In future stages, we'll be able to concentrate our efforts maybe on more targeted samples from those potential sources of contamination. This is meant to actually help us close in on where the targeted efforts may be most useful.
Great, thanks, Brad. Okay, so this next one is for Becky. Could you explain a bit more about how you stretched the research funding? Is this through the intern project or through some other kind of effort?
Yeah, there's a few ways that we've been able to stretch the funding. First is the one I mentioned about the indirect costs on the grant. So when we write the grant, we write that the students from the University of Michigan will work at the utility location. And so we make space for them in our lab. We make space for them to sit and do some desk work. And by doing that, the indirect costs that the university requires to be written into the grant are much lower. And so that has helped us to stretch the research funding in some way. And then we have a research agreement between the university and us that just specifies that the student needs to be there a certain percentage of their time. And when they're working at the utility, who is their point of contact. And so a second way that we've been able to stretch the funding is by bringing in a water quality intern that is already trained on the methods in Lute's lab. And so they can continue the project while they're doing their internship. They'll carry out other tasks at the water plant that the interns usually do, but then they can also find time to do sampling and go back to the university even to analyze some samples. And then a third way we've been able to extend the funding a bit more is when Lute is able to bring in fellowship students that have their own funding coming in, or if she has discretionary funding or other projects, that's not tied to a specific project, then we're able to use that for some of the other side projects that come through. So I think that is some good 3 examples there.
All right, great, thank you. So the next one was about the MWRD and Black and Veatch project. Someone was asking if it would be possible to get references for the 4 peer-reviewed publication collaborations between MWRD and Black and Veatch. Maybe just a follow-up.
Yeah, sure. I mean, they're on Google Scholar, so it's we can provide a list.
All right, great. Well, thank you, everyone. Those are all the questions that I see here. If there are any that I have missed, I'd be happy to follow up with you afterwards. I do want to make one clarification. I do see someone requested just some definitions of acronyms. So just so you're aware, tailored collaboration, we often abbreviate as TC, so apologize for that. If you've heard us say TRC, that would be the Technical Review Committee or Tailored Collaboration Review Committee, TCRC. All right, so I am going to now discuss a little bit more about some assistance that our subscriber services team can provide. As was mentioned earlier, I'm Alice Fulmer. I'm the director of our subscriber services department here for the Water Research Foundation. And, we can provide support to any utilities or research teams interested in submitting proposals. We, as a unit, our responsibilities are to work as a liaison with utilities or other organizations within particular regions. So we serve as a point of contact, a primary point of contact for utilities. We can help answer questions about Water Research Foundation research, involvement opportunities, processes, as well as relay utility challenges or interests for research planning purposes. So specifically for this tailored collaboration program, we can serve as reviewers of initial concepts. We can share related research that maybe you should consider, other research that we have either published or ongoing. As Kenan alluded to, we might be able to potentially identify other utilities with similar interests or challenges that could either be good collaborators for your project or maybe serve as sort of proof, if you will, or lend credence to the general applicability of a particular research idea. So demonstrate that broad relevance, if you will, even if the project itself is more utility or regional specific. It also may be that you have an interest or a challenge that you're struggling with that you're just not sure how to or if it translates into research. We'd love to hear from you, chat with you, and perhaps brainstorm on how we can turn that into a research idea. So really, regardless, we strongly encourage anyone considering submitting tailored collaboration pre-proposal to contact us first. We're always interested in hearing about your research plans and want to help if we can. So how do you know who to contact? Well, hopefully you're seeing a map on your screen now. As I mentioned before, we have a number of account managers or senior account managers that work with the various regions. You can see their contact information on the left-hand side. In particular, apparently, Maureen Hodgen. So I apologize about that. Looks like my screenshot had her highlighted. So I'll start with her. Maureen works with our Pacific Northwest and Canadian utilities, as well as Wyoming and Colorado. As you can see, this region in navy here. Michael Dirks works with California. You can see in gray there. I'll next move to Jim Siriano. He works with that region in turquoise, so the Southwest and Texas area. Bennett Parsons works with that gold region there, spanning the middle of the United States. Jennifer Warner has our Great Lakes and New England area, and that sort of dark orange reddish color. Julie Minton works with the utilities in green, really that mid-Atlantic area and Florida. And myself, since I am located in North Carolina, I'm serving the North Carolina and South Carolina utilities, as well as international subscribers. I should mention that I've been in this role about 6 months, and so have been transitioning my utilities. So there are a couple of states here that are still in transition. Our website actually lists state by state which account manager you would work with. So you can see it in a bit more detail there. Or if you have any questions about it, please feel free to just reach out to me directly. I'd be happy to put you in touch with the right person if you have any questions. So with that, I really just want to once again thank all of our presenters and those who asked questions. This was just a fabulous webcast, and I'm going to turn it over to Kenan Ozekin, who's going to sing us out.
Great. Thank you, Alice. Again, I do want to follow your thank to our presenters for the excellent presentations and then describing us how they played within the program. As we are coming to closure, there are a couple of links on this slide. So first, Mary is our point of contact for the program. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to her. And if you want more information about the program, there is a lot more information about it, about including like pre-proposal guidelines on our website. Please visit our website. As you exit the webcast, you will run into a short survey. I would encourage you to fill out the survey. Those survey results really help us to improve our webcast and webcast series. Again, thank you for being here, attending this webcast. Hopefully you find it useful. Any questions about the programs, foundation, we are here to help. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.